Emerging from the water temple, Link and I ascended from Lake Hylia and into the bright sunlight. The storm had stopped, and all was quiet. We held on to each other as we made our way to our horses. Midnight Star and Star Dancer had found themselves some grass to gnaw on that had pushed its way up through the snow. We pushed our way through the deep snow and up to our awaiting horses. Link helped me into my saddle. Then he removed the iron boots and replaced them with his regular ones, buckled the Master Sword back around his back, fastened his saddlebags, then mounted Midnight Star. Looking back at me one last time, he smiled.
"Oh, by the way, my love, I managed to retrieve these."
Raising his hand, he held up my phoenix circles. I looked at him with a smile, then took the weapon and fastened it to my belt. Then I nodded I was ready. I glimpsed back at the lake one last time before we booted our horses in the legs and headed for home, leaving the water temple behind. When we reached home, we dismounted and ushered the horses back into the stable. Then we went into the house. As we walked in, I saw Ruto sitting by the fire with our little son. When she looked up at us, her eyes grew big with shock. "Oh my goddesses, what the hell happened to you two?" Removing the tattered Zora tunic, I staggered to the couch and sat down. "We got the shit beat out of us," I replied darkly. I watched as Link removed his damp cloak and scabbard, then staggered over to the couch and sat down beside me. "Got the shit beat out of you? By who?" Ruto questioned again. With worry and shock, I looked directly into Zora's concerned eyes. "It's a long story, Ruto. Are you up to it?" She nodded back in response. After we explained about our terrifying experience inside the water temple, Ruto's eyes stared at us in pure shock. "Oh my goddesses, Jenna, you have powers over the elements?" Ruto said with shock in her voice. "I'm not sure. I have no memory of the events Link described to me. The last thing I remember, I was being knocked into the tree after Dark Link broke through my defenses. But Link said I destroyed his counterpart inside a Hue energy ball." I sighed, shaking my head. "I still don't understand it. I never had powers like that before." "Maybe they were dormant until now," Ruto added.
"It's a possibility," Link said.
"You have a point, but I wonder what could have activated it," I responded skeptically.
"Maybe it was activated through the immense anger you experienced when Dark Link attacked you,"
Link said as he took a sip of his honey tea. I pondered the thought, wondering if that could be what happened, but it still sounded too far-fetched. "I think I should go see Princess Zelda tomorrow. Maybe she can help answer this," I said as I looked at Ruto. "Well, I think that's a wise decision. Maybe she can help," Ruto said as Link nodded in agreement. Looking over at Link, his eyes seemed to glow with anticipation. For a moment I was able to read his mind through them, only to have the connection break. "Well, it's been a long day. I'm tired and I want to get cleaned up. Let's call it a day," I said as I eyed Link over. "You can stay here tonight, Ruto. I still don't think it would be wise for you to head back to Zora's domain until morning," I said as I handed Ruto a pillow and blankets. "Thank you kindly," Ruto returned appreciatively as she took the blankets from me and proceeded to make a place for herself by the fire. "I'm going to send Lily and Navi to sleep down here tonight. If you should need anything, they'll get it for you," I said as Ruto nodded in return. "Yawn! Well, I'm heading up. Coming, Link?" I asked him tiredly.
"Yes, my love. I need to clean up as well,"
he said as he ascended the stairs behind me. As I prepared our bath, Link was busy removing the tattered clothes from his body. While I watched the water swell in the tub from the heat, I began to think of what Link said. The notion that I might have powers over the elements frightened me, since I had no idea if I would even be able to control such power. I just hoped that if I had such power, that I would be able to take control of it. When the water was ready, I removed my tattered and torn dress and called for Link to join me, slipping down into the
water.
It was a relief to finally remove the dust and dirt from my body. I slipped over to Link and into his muscular arms. I huddled against him as he took the wash rag and began to clean my wounds and scrub away the dried blood. As I laid there inside Link's strong arms, I felt secure, felt protected. Even in light of what befell us that day, I was glad that I went with him. Who knows what might have happened if I didn't? He could have still been prisoner to his evil counterpart. Though everything that happened that day still haunted me, it haunted my dreams. And that night was the first night when sleep evaded me. Morning came, and the morning sun washed through the window and into the room. I opened my sleepless eyes and stirred out of bed. I walked over to the crib where our son laid. His sweet little face was so innocent as he slept peacefully in his crib with his fairy Aria snuggled next to him. I reached in and gently brushed my fingers across his soft cheek, smiling to myself as I watched him sleep. I love you, my son. I don't know what would have happened to you if you lost us. A single tear trickled down my face. Don't worry, my son. The face of death isn't going to keep us away from you, I said, as I gently placed a little kiss on his forehead. Rising, I walked over to the other side of the bed where Link was sleeping and knelt down beside him. Taking my hand, I gently brushed his fine blonde hair out from over his eyes and placed my lips close to his. Softly I kissed his firm lips, tasting the honey still on them from the tea he drank the night before. Then a glint caught my eyes. He opened his beautiful jeweled eyes. "Hi," I said to him softly. "Hi," he whispered back. "We should head over to the castle soon," I said, kissing him again. Stirring out of bed, Link yawned, then got up and went to dress his bandages while I went to check on Ruto and prepare breakfast. Descending the staircase, I saw Ruto's sleeping form on the floor in front of the fire. Glancing around the room, I noticed Lily and Navi sleeping on the mantel of the fireplace. Softly, I called for our fairies. "Lily, Navi, wake up." Stirring, Lily looked over at me. Then sleepily, she got up and flew over. "What's wrong, Jenna?" she said as she muffled a yawn. "Nothing, I just wanted to know how Ruto was doing." "Did she sleep well last night?" I questioned, concern filling my eyes. "She did just fine. The only thing she asked for in the middle of the night was she needed some
Water.
to wet her body, since she had remained too long out of the
Water.
"Is she arc now?" I questioned Lily. Just then Ruto stirred awake as she sat up, her sky-blue eyes watching us. "Morning, how do you feel, Jenna?" Ruto questioned as she muffled a yawn. "Still a little sore, but I didn't sleep well that day. It's still haunting me." My face faltered as I felt the effects of that day coming back again. Rising and walking over to me, Ruto put a hand on my shoulder as she sought to give me comfort. "I think it would be wise if you and Link head to the castle soon." The Zora returned with a worried glance. "Maybe you're right, but what about you? Aren't you still weak?" A look of concern crossed my face as I eyed her over. "Don't worry about me, Jenna. I can manage. You and Link have already done enough." Nodding, I hugged the gentle Zora. "Thank you, Ruto," I said happily as she smiled back. After breakfast, Link and I saddled the horses and headed for the castle. With one last look back, I waved to Ruto as she disappeared into the tunnel heading back to Zora's domain. "I thought we should get going," Link stated as he glanced over at me. I secured Link Jr. in his portable carrier, then booted Star Dancer in the legs and followed Link. Snow kicked up behind our horses' powerful hooves as they dug into the ground, unearthing it. Leaving the Lost Woods and entering Hyrule Field, I saw that snow still blanketed most of everything, and a slight winter chill lingered in the air. I felt my body heat up as the cold tingled my senses. Getting nervous, I urged my mare to move faster. I watched as Hyrule Castle started to loom over us. Approaching it, the drawbridge lowered, and we proceeded to cross. The sound of our horses' hooves made a clopping sound as we crossed the wood bridge. Upon entering the marketplace, I heard it bustling with activity as people went about their daily wares. We slowed our horses to a trot and headed for the gates to the castle. The sound of their hooves made a clicking sound on the stone pathway as we went. When we reached the first gate, I saw that my good old friend Perino was on duty. "Hello, my old friend, how are you?" I called out to him. Smiling back at me, he spoke. "Hello, Mistress Jenna. I've been fine. Do you wish to see the princess today?" Nodding in response, he raised the gate and allowed us to pass. "Thanks, my friend," I said as we rode past. We went up the small path that led to the main gate. When we reached it, the guards opened it, then went to summon Princess Zelda. Upon her arrival, she wore a surprised look.
What brought you here in this terrible cold?
She questioned.
Zelda, we have to talk. It's important.
Link said sternly. Her expression changing, she called the stable hands to take our horses to the royal stable, then led us inside. Then we were taken to the study. Once there, Zelda ordered for the servants to bring refreshments and warm blankets. Link and I sat down on a cushioned couch, while Zelda sat in a chair across from us.
So, tell me, what is of such great importance that you two came all the way here in the chilling cold with your little son?
Zelda questioned, worry cracking in her voice.
It's about Janna, Princess. We had a very, disturbing encounter in the
Water!
temple yesterday.
Link said solemnly. What?
Water!
Temple, what were you two doing there?
Zelda cried, her eyes wide with shock. It's a long story, my friend. Do you have time? I asked.
I have all the time in the world,
Zelda replied, crossing her arms. After we told her about our encounter with Dark Link and about my supposed control over the elements, I watched as Zelda's eyes wide in pure shock and terror filled into them.
Dark Link, control over the elements, Janna's body on fire. What the hell?
Zelda said in a choked voice. Zelda, my friend, I still don't quite understand it myself. That is why we're here, you being a sage, almost as powerful as Raru. We thought you could help, I said. Then my eyes lowered, turning towards the fireplace and staring down into the flames. If I really have such power, I'm afraid I might not be able to control it. I heard Zelda rustle, then rise and walk over to me. Gently, she placed a hand on my shoulder, and I looked up at her, her blue eyes glowing with concern.
Don't worry, my friend. We will find out if such power runs through your veins. And if you do, then I will help you master control over it.
Smiling, she looked into my eyes, and a wash of calm ran through me. I looked back over at Link, and establishing a connection between us, I began to talk to him telepathically.
Don't worry, my sweet love. Zelda knows what she's doing. I have full confidence in her abilities,
Link said, his voice floating through my mind. I believe you, my love. She has always had great abilities. I just hope that this isn't much on her, I called back to him.
Just trust in her, my wife. She knows what she's doing.
Link responded, I love you, Link, I cooed softly into his mind.
I love you too, my sweetheart.
I felt Link's presence fill into me as he warmed my body, warmed my soul, and at that point I was in peace.
Don't forget, my love, I will always be here for you.
Saying a few more words, we broke our special connection and rejoined the speaking world. Zelda, Link, and I wrapped ourselves in our cloaks, called Impa to care for little Link, then headed out into the palace gardens. We walked through the ankle-deep snow and sat down on the marble benches. Link sat next to me and Zelda across from me. I wrapped my cloak tighter around my body, trying to keep out the chill. Then I directed my attention to Zelda.
First off, we need to establish a connection between you and the power,
Zelda finally said.
Let's work with the fire element first. I want you to focus, clear your mind of all thoughts.
That shouldn't take too long.
And concentrate on a single flame,
she said calmly. I closed my eyes and slowly my mind cleared of all thoughts. I felt the void open up around me, sending me into a darkness. I floated around in the blackness, searching for the flame. I watched, waited, then suddenly I saw a glow as a small flame begun to rise.
Do you see it?
Zelda inquired. Yes, I do. I responded as I watched the flame in my mind slowly start to dance.
Now, concentrate on it. Make it a part of you,
Zelda stated again. I stared at the flame, focused on it, tried to make it a part of me. Then I reached out for it, tried to touch it. When my hand grazed over it, I felt a burning sensation and jerked my hand back. Ouch! Damn it! I cried as the flame flickered out, and the void shattered.
What happened?
Zelda asked, watching me cradle my hand. It burnt me when I tried to touch it. I returned angrily, cradling my throbbing hand.
You physically felt something, but you didn't concentrate on it enough to control it. Let's try it again.
I cleared my mind of all thoughts, and the void opened up around me once more. Again, I tried to concentrate on the flame that rose up in my mind, focused on making it a part of me. This time, I felt its warmth against my skin as it flickered wildly in front of me. Once more, I reached for it as I slowly lowered my hands beneath it, and taking it gently into my hands, I felt its heat on my palms as I slowly took hold of it. Then I brought it close to me, peered into its reddish glow, saw my own reflection dancing among it. As I held the warm flame in my hands, it danced wildly across my fingers as it became a part of me, a part of my very being. Then I heard a voice call out to me.
Jenna, look!
I opened my eyes and saw an amazing sight. There, on my fingertips, were two flames dancing across them. My eyes grew big as I looked from Zelda to Link, who were just as wide-eyed as me. Oh, my goddesses! I did it! I really did it! I cried as a tear ran down my cheek.
Then it's true. You really do have elemental powers.
Zelda returned shocked. I looked at her, then to my hands.
Dude, my hands are huge.
I played with it, moved my fingers around as the flames danced from one finger to another. I giggled as the flames moved with my hands and jumped when I flicked a finger. Then suddenly the flames flickered out and a small fire rose in the palms of my hands.
What happened?
Zelda asked, worried. I looked at her slowly graying eyes, then faltered to the small fire in my hand. I just thought of a small fire in my hands, then poof. The flames on my fingertips went out and this rose up in my hands.
Jenna!
Zelda clasped her hands over her mouth.
You really do have control over the elements.
Fire is not an element.
The power was really inside you all this time. It just took something drastic to happen in your life for it to activate.
I stared at her, wide-eyed, unable to move. You mean I was born with this ability? I said, my voice raspy from shock.
It's a possibility, or maybe something happened to you during your life where you acquired it from somewhere. Do you have any recollection of anything strange that happened to you before your encounter in the
Water!
temple?
Zelda asked. I thought for a moment. Tried to remember if I ever had anything really strange happen before my encounter with Dark Link. But the only thing I remember where something drastic ever happened to me was when my parents died. Nothing has happened that I remember. Only thing is when my parents died, when I was a little girl. I returned solemnly.
Do you think your parents ever had any special abilities?
Zelda questioned. Well, I remember when we would have dry spells on the farm where I'm from, my mother would sing to the sky and it would rain. I also remember that my father was always good with the earth. Our farm always was prosperous. The crops my father grew were always the best in our village. I looked back down at the small glowing fire in my hands as a gentle warmth warmed the chill from my body.
Jenna, there is no other explanation. Your parents must have had some elemental powers, and it transferred to you. But both of them seem to only have one power. Your mother with the power of
Water!
and your father with the power of earth. But one thing still has me baffled. How did you come to possess the power of wind and fire?
Zelda asked in amassment. I watched the puzzled looks that appeared on Zelda and Link's faces. Never had they encountered someone in Hyrule with control over the elements. Stories of Hylians possessing elemental powers only existed in the Dark Ages of Hyrule. Most thought that the people who possess such powers were thought to have died out hundreds of years ago. Stories foretold that if one who possessed powers over the elements should ever show up in Hyrule, then the land will truly be blessed. Protected by the one with powers of the ancients. But no one ever thought the stories were true. It was told to be only a myth, but now that one did show up, would this be Hyrule's great protector? With the thought that Ganon might somehow return, would I be the one to protect Hyrule from such darkness? I looked at Link and Zelda, who were staring at me with blank eyes.
I believe that when she was born, the powers of earth and
water
transferred from her parents, but she must have been born with her own set of powers. That would explain her power over fire and wind.
Link added, his calm stare upon my face. Zelda just looked from me to him, her face expressionless. Then her gaze landed on the small fire in my hands.
Jenna, there are stories that once, in the Dark Ages of Hyrule, there were Hylians that once possessed powers over the elements, but it was believed that they all died out in the time of the Great War of the Lands. This devastating war befell Hyrule hundreds of years ago, killing half of Hyrule's population, but it was believed that the 11 Silver Lights, or elemental users, that were the ones who saved Hyrule and ended the Great War. The stories also state that if a Silver Light should ever return to Hyrule, the land would be blessed with peace and prosperity. Zelda's gaze fell on me, her expression warm, yet serious. I'm not too sure if you could be a descendant of the Silver Lights, but one thing is sure, you are an elemental user.
Zelda said, her eyes reflecting the glow of the fire still burning in my hands.
I think we should continue the training of your powers, Jenna. We need to make sure you can fully control the elements.
I nodded in agreement, but one thought flashed into my mind. Zelda, my friend, I have one question. I just thought of something. You said that my parents transferred their powers to me when I was conceived, but what about our son? Do you think it's possible that Link Jr. might have acquired the powers as well? I said as Link looked at me with shock.
I never thought of that. Yes, it might just be possible, but he may still be too young to tell. Even though if that is possible, the thought of Silver Light still existing is one of the greatest things to happen to Hyrule.
Then Zelda's gaze shifted to Link.
You truly have a very special wife, Link. A possible descendant of the great Silver Lights,
Zelda said happily. I watched as Link's gaze shifted to me. His powerful arms embraced me as his gentle lips kissed mine. For a moment, I was in another world as Link's gentle kiss warmed my soul. And I knew at that moment that even if I was one of the Silver Lights, Link would always be with me, always be at my side. I looked into Link's eyes one last time, then looked back to Zelda. The fire danced in my eyes as if it was alive, causing her expression to change into a happy one. I giggled as I did tricks with my newfound power. I was now more than I had become. I became something different, someone of great power and legend. It was later determined that I was a descendant of the great Silverlight race. My powers were of the great elements. I was trained under Zelda, and I became someone of great power. Now I'm one of Hyrule's most powerful protectors, here to help the hero of time, my love, protect the land from evil. Under the training of the sages, I became one of the sacred realm, the one chosen by the goddesses to protect the legendary Triforce.
The Mutant Museum would like to thank all of its generous supporters, particularly Break System BSE and Michael Fattori. If you enjoyed this exhibit, please consider signing up as a donor yourself on Patreon for as little as $1 a month. And as always, thanks for being you.